Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel.
Don't you wanna have fun? Fool around someone.
My name's Tamika and I wanted to do my August wrap up. I am really struggling to film this video today and I cannot figure out why, but hi, hello, welcome back. I hope y'all are doing great. I hope y'all had a great reading month. I read 17 titles in August, which is one of the highest reading months I've had so far this year. And the only reason it's not the highest is probably because of 30 and 30. So in September, I read one manga, one erotic horror, which I'm specifically taking out of the romance and the horror category because this one's very specific. Though it's an erotic horror, it's more than that. It's also going to develop into a romance in the second book. So I wanted to specifically pull that one out, and I'm going to talk about that one after I talk about all the horror and right before I talk about the romance. I read 5 horror books this month and 10 romances. So I read a good assortment of things. I read a good amount of things this month. This would have been a fantastic month for me to be able to do a mid-month wrap up, but apparently that is too easy and I couldn't let myself have that. So here we are. So we're going to chat about the book. I'm not going to go into depth about every single one of them because we would be here for literally forever, and I honestly just don't really feel like super in-depth reviews are what you come here for. Like, you're not here for me to tell you, you know, every single detail that happens in some of these books, but I will tell you a decent amount. So let's talk about them. Let's start with the manga, which was Fire in His Fingertips Volume 3. This is a series that I love, but this one was quite disappointing. So this one is following a firefighter who is having a romance with his childhood best friend. He is a playboy, and at the beginning of the series, they are very much just friends with benefits because he cannot keep a relationship. He is not interested in any of the relationships his best friend is trying to set him up on. Then his best friend ends up being in a building fire. He comes and rescues her and she ends up staying with him, and there's a lot of dubious consent here where she is not actively asking like to have sex with him and not actively giving consent, but it's like a dubious kind of consent. So if that's an issue, just know that going in. That does continue throughout the series. I just didn't enjoy this one that much. I feel like the story kind of just fell flat in this volume. I just feel like their romance is boring, which is quite sad, but I feel like their romance is developing in a very boring way and I'm just not super in love with it. It's fine, I'm gonna continue the series, but this is definitely not my favorite. And I will say this one is hentai, so if you're curious about super spicy manga, this is where you're gonna be wanting to go, but this one is just not that great in my opinion. Now let's talk about the horror that I read. I read 5 horror books. One of them, which is the first one I'm going to talk about, is actually a middle grade, which is interesting. I don't read middle grade ever, actually. I didn't know this was middle grade until after I checked it out and had already started listening to it, and I was like, ah, this is a small human telling me this story. That's my narrator. And this is called The Collector. This is about these 2 girls who end up going back home to live with their grandmother. Their mother comes along with them, but essentially this family moves back in with their grandmother, and the grandmother has like really weird rules because she's convinced that there's a witch that lives in the woods who is taking children and turning them into dolls. So like she has very weird rules, like you can't go into the woods, you can't do this, and you can't bring like dolls into the house. So she has to like, they have to obey these rules, and one of the girls ends up befriending this little girl at her school. Her grandmother freaks out when she brings her home. You can kind of get the idea of what's going on. It is a very classic middle grade horror. These are the horrors that I was reading when I was very young, like when I was literally in middle school. I was devouring these books. I thought they were so good and they were so entertaining. I stand by the Scholastic horror books. I think they hold up. I think they're pretty good. And even as an adult who was listening to this and like I was expecting everything that was happening, it was still fun and I still enjoyed it, and I think kids are gonna really love these. I think if you have someone in your life who loves horror and they're like a kid and you have like kids that love horror, or I think if you just like childish books, not in a bad way childish, but just like juvenile, like this is literally small babies you know, being scared. I think if you like that, you're gonna enjoy this. I don't feel like this is comparable to Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark though, because I feel like that leans YA rather than middle grade, but this is still really cute. So if you are remotely interested, or you know anyone that would be interested in this, you have like a small horror lover in your life, just get the book. I think it'd be fun. I think they'll have a great time with it. These next two we're going to talk about together because I did do a reading vlog where I read A Dowry of Blood and Bunny. Both of these were books that I read because I was reading Katie Colson's favorite books, and I did mistake Bunny for a thriller. I don't know how I managed that, but I sure did. Anyway, A Dowry of Blood is literally about the first bride of Dracula. It's fantastic. I loved it. It is like the most beautiful romanticized tragedy ever, because it's not a romance, it's definitely a horror, and I definitely got the vampires are sexy vibes. I got a very romanticized, not necessarily horror, like scary, gory, stuff like that, but just like you can tell it's horrific, like it's a horrific story. There are horror elements, but it's very romanticized, and I really feel like we definitely got that like Victorian kind of atmosphere with this one. I felt like this one for sure was very, very romantic. Like there was a very heavy romantic vibe in here. It's a love story between our main woman and the two people that are part of the family that Dracula makes, and obviously Dracula. And this is just such a beautiful story because, like, you know from the beginning, like from the get-go, that they are not going to end up together. This is it's a tragic love story because, I mean, he is very abusive to all of them, and it is just gorgeous. Like, the writing is beautiful. It is so elegant. It is so well crafted. It was just a beautiful story, and I absolutely loved this one. Bunny, on the other hand, I didn't love. I didn't even like it. There were issues that I had with this one that were just, I enjoyed the first third of the book, and then after that I was just kind of like, I don't really understand the point. And I'm okay with weird for the sake of weird in certain circumstances, but sometimes weird for the sake of weird just doesn't work for me, and this was a situation where weird for the sake of weird just wasn't working. I wasn't invested in the story. I didn't care about what was happening. I was just kind of thrown off guard by a lot of the weird antics that were going on within the story, and I just didn't care. Bunny is following this girl who goes to like this elite like writing school. These pretty girls and this like clique of girls take an interest in her, and they call everyone Bunny. And I feel like I might have missed the point of a lot of this one. I do feel like that is a common thing I'm hearing, is like you can easily like miss the point of it, and there's a lot of stuff going on, but I just actively didn't really feel like this one was for me. So I don't know, I'm not gonna go back to it. I don't feel like it worked. So yeah, that's just my opinion though. If you like my horror taste, you like Ashley's horror taste, we are very similar with horror, and this one was not it for me. It was just not that good. Back in my realm of horror, which I love, is Cum Shot. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's an extreme horror. It is a horror by Matt Shaw. This book is so disgusting. I'm gonna say it that way. This is literally about a man who has acid-like semen. And I gave this 4 stars, and hear me out on why I gave it 4 stars. The continuity was a little weird. Like, if he gets off, his semen literally burns through you, right? Like, his semen is acid-like. It will literally burn you up, like burn you and like melt your skin. So my question is not necessarily how does that work, because he does say that, you know, if he gets it on himself, he'll burn himself and whatever. My question is his pre-cum also acidic, or is that fine? Because like, that's where it lost me a little bit. Let me tell you what it's about, then we'll talk about my confusion on the semen. So literally this is about a man who was bullied in high school, and his entire goal is to kill people. Like, kill them off, kill the people who wronged him, and destroy their bodies with his acidic semen. I'm gonna let that sink in for you for a second, because yeah, it sounded as weird as I made it sound. Yeah, so this man is literally killing people because of a mean prank someone played on him. So in this book, he actually has sex with someone, and he finishes inside of her, and it starts to melt her insides, right? So yeah, I get that. Like, that's, he's killed her because his semen melts her, right? We got that far. What I'm confused on, and what really draws me up here, is there's pre-cum. And like, I'm just wondering, like, did that like drip into her, like, as, you know, he's fucking her? Because I mean, if he's raw dogging her, then that should be slipping out too, and it should be burning her. Like, it should be, like, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Like, and then again, I'm also wondering, when he's getting blowjobs, is that not gonna burn their tongue? Like, that, it's not adding up, and I am confused. However, I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a wild ride, and I was just like, you know, if you don't think about this too much, this is fantastic. If you think about it a little too hard, you're gonna be like, what in the world? But it's okay, because this man is literally coming on their faces to make their faces melt so that they're not, like, recognizable, taking out all their teeth, like coming on their teeth so that their teeth will fall out of their gums. He is taking off their fingerprints with his semen. He is covering any distinguishing birthmarks, tattoos, scarring. Listen, all I'm gonna say is you would have to use so much semen to make me look different. Like, so much, like I have my little mole on my face. I also have this scar on my hand from when I was burned. And then this arm alone, let alone this arm. I mean, you would have to just, I don't know what this man would do, but he would have to, like, just get acid, because that would be easier than using his semen. This is off topic, but it's not the point. Listen, this one just, it messed me up. It messed me up. I also read Retrogressive, which is an erotic horror. And listen, when I tell you this is an erotic horror, it's also extreme horror. So, like, if you have any kind of like any kind of triggers, I don't know if I can even remotely recommend this one to you, because this one just kind of crosses every boundary you can possibly think. And I will say, I do plan on reading the rest of the series because I really liked it. I did not anticipate that I was going to really like this. This is following a girl who has been held in a psychiatric facility. I'm going to say it like that because I'm not really sure exactly what it was. But it was a psychiatric facility because she was taken when she was really young. So this girl has gone through some shit because her parents that kidnapped her, who she thought was her parents the whole time, were selling her body for, I think it was for drugs. I don't know, they were selling her body for something. And her real family ends up finding her, like her dad and her mother and whatever. And they go and they get her and they take her home. And it's her actual family and it is incest. This girl loves her dad and loves her brother and is so mad at her sisters and her mom because they get the same attention that she gets. And she doesn't like it. So she ends up killing them, like torturing these people. And it's just a lot because within the first like third of the book, she has sex with her brother. He finishes inside of her. One of the sisters eats it out of her, which I think is disgusting. And again, I'll clarify, not the woman going down on another woman, them eating that out of her. Grosses, bodily fluids gross me out. And she gives her father a blowjob within the first 20%. Within the first like couple nights of her being back within this household. It's incest. It's gruesome. It's dark. There's cannibalism. It is just a lot. I loved it. And I don't want to talk about how much I loved it because I loved it a lot. So moving on. Let's talk about the erotic horror that I wanted to throw in with the romances, and that is The Wings of a Butterfly. This is a erotic horror that the second book is going to be a romance, which is why I throw it in here like this, because yes, it's erotic horror. No, it's not romance, but the second book is going to make the series a romance, if that works, you know, if that makes sense. There's not romance heavy in the first book. The second book is going to be romance, but we are following a character who is bisexual. She has a thing for her best friend. Her best friend does not reciprocate those feelings. She ends up getting kidnapped, and this guy is a serial killer, and he is just a lot. Like, he is a lot. He kidnaps her and is just like, you're gonna fall in love with me. I'm not giving you a choice. You're perfect for me. This man is hallucinating. I can't tell you everything. He's a serial killer. He kidnaps her and he tortures her. Like, not in the torture you would think kind of way, but like taunts her and does really cruel things that you wouldn't anticipate someone to do who wants someone to love them. Like, so with this one, he is just very weird. He doesn't really trust her, which is, you know, valid. She knows she's gonna run away, and he wants her to love him so badly. And there's so many things going on in here, and there's so many trigger warnings. I can't tell you. This one was just a lot. Like, I was questioning a lot of myself in this. I was like, why am I loving this? Why is this so good? Why? I should not be loving this the way that I am. I should not be enjoying myself. But here I was, just trucking along, happy little self, reading about this messed up situation between these characters. So, listen, I'm really excited because book 2 is female, female, male, and female, male, female. So we got a throuple going on, and I can't wait for it. So, let's talk about the romances that I read. There was a lot. So we have Touching Divinity. This is a female-female fantasy romance. It's a novella. I'm not going to tell you much else. I really enjoyed this. It was very, very cute. It is about gods and reincarnation and like an academic kind of school. It's very cute. I enjoyed this a lot. I do recommend you check it out. It is only like 2 hours and it's on Hoopla. Then I read Scarlet Angel, which is the 3rd book in the Mindfuck series by St. Abbey. I'm loving this series. I am very excited to continue on with it this month because I do think that I'm going to finish the series in September. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm leaning towards that. If you're not familiar with this series, this is a serial killer romance between a serial killer and an FBI agent, and our serial killer is trying to avenge the death of her brother and also the torture she went through by these men who were in this town, and their crimes were covered up, so they never really sought justice. And it's very, very interesting, and I absolutely love the series a lot, and I'm thinking it's going to get really good in these next 2 books, so definitely recommend the series if you've not tried it out. Then I dived headfirst into monster romances this month. I read like 3 monster romances. First of all, we have The Dragon's Bride by Katie Robert, literally about a dragon monster. He has 2 penises. This girl sells herself to this devil kind of guy. He's not really a devil, he's a demon. She sells herself to a demon in order to get protection because the man that she was living with, that she was married to, was abusive. So in exchange, she goes and lives with this man for 7 years. That is part of their agreement. And he wants a bride so that he can have an heir, and she doesn't necessarily want that, but she does, you know, she agrees to like be there and marry him so that she can fulfill her end of the deal. This is fantastic. I loved this. I don't know why anyone would be shocked that I loved this monster romance by Katie Robert, because if I was going to start anywhere with monster romances, it would be with Katie Robert. I've read monster romances before, but this is one where I was like, oh yeah, I'm into that. I also read Morning Glory Milking Farm. Finally, it took me forever, but I finally did. This was so freaking cute. I wouldn't have expected a book about a girl literally giving hand jobs to minotaurs to be cute, but here we are. The romance between these 2 was adorable. Literally, we're following a girl who is a milker at this farm, and they are using the bull semen to get, well, they're not bull semen, it's minotaur semen. They're using their semen to make like Viagra. It's like for a pharmaceutical company. And it's so cute because she develops a romance with one of her clients, because her clients are like, this one is just like obsessed with her in like a not creepy way, in like a he can't get enough of her kind of way, and he's constantly going there for her and requesting her, and it's just really, really cute. And if you've not read Morning Glory Milking Farm, I promise it is way cuter than people make it seem. I also read Little Green Vines, which is a female-female monster romance. This one's very, very short. It's like a short story. It's literally about a girl who gets taken into the woods. She's lured into the woods by this demoness, and they have spicy times. There's nothing really memorable about it other than sapphic sex. So, I mean, if you're into that, check it out. Because, you know, that's in here. And it's monsters because she's a demon. So technically it's a demon romance, but like she has monster appendages. So we're taking it. Her tail can literally impregnate her. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to find a sapphic romance with a breeding kink, but that was it. That book has breeding kink in it. It's hilarious. I didn't think it was possible, but here we are. Which just proves that there is anything you can imagine on Kindle Unlimited. Anything you could want is on Kindle Unlimited. You just have to find it. I also finished Prisoned by Marion Mans. I think that's the author's name. But this one is literally about a girl who is friends with this like group of people when she's younger, and something happens to one of her friends, so she ends up moving away, and one of her friends dies later on in life, and she goes back to the funeral. She knows what's happened to the friend that dies when they were really young, and she is taken captive with the man that she wanted a relationship with, that she was basically forced to not be with. And she has this secret, and they're trying to torture her to get it out of her so that they can like know who killed this person, and she's refusing to tell because she can't, like she cannot tell the secret. And it is literally her in prison with this man that she has a long lost love with, and also them being brutally tortured around every single turn. And I loved almost every single thing about this book. It has a trope that I didn't like that I can't tell you because it's a spoiler. Don't worry, it is not surprise baby or secret pregnancy or anything like that. It is something different, but it is a trope I don't love, and it's used, I feel like, a little too much as an easy way out for things, or an easy way out to add like a cool storyline. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. There's a trope I don't like. This was really, really good though. I really liked watching them like figure each other out, and like all the twists and turns that come with this. It was really, really good, and I really enjoyed it. I also read Sold to the Mob Boss, which, oh my god, I loved this mafia romance. It was so good. Literally, we have a girl who is taken captive after going to a club with her friends, and she is sold off to the mob boss. He is the one organizing the whole thing, and originally there are other people out in the crowd who are trying to buy her, but he steps up and he says no, she's gonna be mine, and he buys her for like an insane price. And it is just so good listening to them, their banter. Oh my god, they just are constantly at each other's throats, and I loved it. And this is just so good. It was so entertaining, and I really enjoyed how everything played out. This was a really short audiobook, but it was very interesting, and it packed such a punch because you didn't know what was going to happen next, and you wanted to like be sucked right into it. It was so good. I also read The Doctor by Nikki Sloan this month, which was not my favorite Nikki Sloan. It was quite interesting though. It's literally about a girl who is dating this guy, and she ends up breaking up with him and then having a fling with his dad. So yeah, this is literally about a girl who wants to fuck her boyfriend's dad, and then she does. It's an age gap romance. He is a surgeon. They have a very forbidden love. It's very cute. I really enjoy this. It's not my favorite Nikki Sloan. I would say it's a 4-star. Just got a little repetitive at the end where I was like, you know, I'm okay without like all of this, but it's fine. Like it was very solid either way. I also read Scarred, which I've been reading for a while. I started this in May, and it was just okay. I really loved the hero. The anti-hero was fantastic. I loved him. I loved our heroine. I love the concept of like the story. I like the way that they like did those things. I just got bored by the end of it and I just wasn't super invested in how the story was going. So I was a little less interested in the book after the second half. I blame that on me reading it so sporadically. So, I mean, it was fine. I gave it 3 stars. I'm glad I finally finished it, but this is definitely not one that I'm going to recommend. The last book that I want to talk about is a reread, which I do not do very often, so you all know how good this must be for me to do a reread. It's Vibe. I did, in fact, reread Vibe by Liza James because I love this book. I finally got the audiobook of it, and I just said, you know what? I'm going to read it. I sat down and I started it, and it just brought back so many warm, fuzzy, fantastic memories. I just love this book. I love this book. I love Ruby. I love Aura. I love both of them so much. I love their story. I love how they are between each other. I love the way they interact. I love how toxic they are to one another. They are just one of my favorite sets of characters that I have ever read from. I will never stop recommending this. I'll never stop loving it, and I do not apologize at all for it. Liza James has done so much for me with my like coming to terms with who I am, and just, you know, my journey into self-discovery with being gay. And this book was so much for me. Like, it has done so much for me, and it helped me through one of the weirdest and hardest relationships that I've ever been in. So this book means a lot to me for a lot of reasons. I will never stop loving Aura and Ruby. I feel like they are such a good pairing, and I loved watching them fall in love again. And the one thing that I would say is that I literally was reading this and then I immediately, right after it ended, I wanted to go back and read it again because I loved it so much. I love this book so much that I immediately wanted to go back and listen to it again. And I was like, no, Tamika, you cannot literally go back and immediately start listening to the book again. You just read it. How about we give it a month or so before we go back and read the book again? So all I'm saying is, you know, Liza James, hey boo, what you doing? How's it going? When we gonna get that audiobook for Hush? Because listen, hear me out. Hear me out. Ready? What if we crowdfund it? Crowdsource. Do we think we could get an audiobook for Hush if we potentially all put in for it? Because listen, I know you don't know who I am, but I feel like we're besties, you know? And I'm just saying, I would pay a lot of money for Kay to have a book. Specifically for me to be able to hear Kay's book. Kay and Calypso. Please. I love this book. I'm so happy I reread it. And I will never shut up until Liza James has audiobooks of all her books. Thank you. That's all I needed. I read a lot of good things in August, so here's to hoping that September is just as good and possibly better. So if you're still here, leave me a lamp emoji down in the comments. If there's not a lamp, leave me whatever your most recent emoji is, and I will chat with you in the next video. Bye, everyone.
Don't you wanna have fun? Don't you wanna have some fun?
Yeah, these babies said that they don't got a future like